Fighting Irish Faithful live post-game Fiesta Bowl. Not exactly the result we were looking for. It breaks my heart to we had very high hopes coming into this game and did not get it done. Notre Dame falls to the Cowboys. We get lassoed and roped because we can't tackle like we're trying to grab a greased pig here. Notre Dame falls 35-37 to Oklahoma State. Marcus Freeman not successful in his debut down in Arizona. And we are just kind of in shock with the performance of the offense and the defense, quite frankly, in the second half. That third quarter, I think everyone could want back. But we'll talk more about the stats, the numbers of the game, and my opinion on the whole game. Not at all the way I wanted to start the year, but let's take some calls. We will invite our first guest on. We will bring on Coach Parsegian. Coach, if you are there, you have been invited to speak. We need some of your wisdom and some of your information from the grave, if possible. But if Coach Parsegian is unable to join us, we will move on.
Hey man, how you feeling?
Oh, Coach, I have felt better. It's one of those things where this feeling is all too familiar. We have high hopes going into a big bowl game, especially a New Year's Six, and I honestly thought this year would be different, given some certain circumstances, and certainly the first half felt that way. But how about yourself?
Well, I tweeted earlier that I blame putting names on the back of the uniforms. This is a current trend. We seem to always lose every time we do that. But I do hope that Jack Cohn's graduate degree is printed on toilet paper, because that's about how much his degree is worth to me right now. Especially in the second half.
Yeah, well, as someone who has a graduate degree from Notre Dame, I may disagree with you respectfully on that one. But the one thing that, I'm not surprised, and I said this in an earlier show, that Notre Dame would have to be successful passing the ball to win this game. Now, unfortunately, I did not think that would result in a run percentage of only 23% and 42 effing yards. So,
I had no issues with them choosing to pass. That didn't bother me. What bothered me is how late in the first half and then going into the third quarter, Cohn just struggling to complete a pass, even on those cross drop downs. And it's like, Buckner's right there. I don't care if Oklahoma State thinks all he's going to do is run. We know Buckner can throw the ball. Give him the shot. Kelly, as nuts as he drove us, knew when it was time to put Buckner in, and Buckner shot. How many rushing touchdowns did Buckner have with his legs throughout the season?
Yeah, he was pretty high with his rushing total. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. We're going very noteless tonight. But no, I said that in the third quarter. I didn't put it in Twitter, but I was texting my brother, and I said it would, why are we not, just to change something up, put in Buckner, as just a different look, something that the defense has to be honest about a mobile quarterback. And quite frankly, that was killing Notre Dame with the mobile quarterback and the just elusiveness that was Oklahoma State's quarterback.
And then after halftime, Oklahoma State makes adjustments. They basically took our passing game and threw it right back at us and ate our secondary alive, which we all knew our secondary was our Achilles heel.
Yeah, they have showed weakness. I agree.
Even with Kyle Hamilton out towards the end of the season, we still didn't play that bad, but they picked us apart. They picked us apart. The only reason it stayed as close as it did is because their offense kept making mistakes and bailing our defense out.
Right. Do you think Notre Dame has a weakness specifically at cornerback?
Big time. Oh, big time. And that's been just big time obvious, even dating back to the Weiss era. Charlie Weiss could put together an offense with a bunch of nobodies that Tyrone Willingham couldn't do squat with, maybe score 20 points a game, and turn them into an offensive juggernaut. But we still would have 40-something to 20-something games because the cornerbacks were so terrible.
Yeah.
I think back to the 06 game against Michigan State in the rain. There were times where Notre Dame could score at will whenever they wanted with Brady Quinn and Samardzija and McKnight, two big-time tight ends in John Carlson and Fasano. But then we go on defense, and it's just chunk play after chunk play after chunk play, and it was the same thing tonight. Same exact thing.
I mean, Oklahoma State, they struggled the first few yards, and something I started keeping track of is success on scoring drives. And even if, Notre Dame, has the ball going into halftime or whatnot, I still count that as a drive, just to be honest about it. But Notre Dame was 5 of 16 on their drives, and Oklahoma State 7 of 17. So they went out with a 41% versus Notre Dame's 31%. And, just little by little, bit by bit, they clawed their way back. And, it's not like Oklahoma State scored all their points in some, blitz right at the beginning of the third quarter. It was just slow, methodical, death by 1,000 cuts kind of situation. And just picking apart, at the cornerbacks. And Notre Dame just could not get it done and stop them. It's, I think Oklahoma State was their own worst enemy their first 3-4 drives, and that allowed Notre Dame to get up.
What drove me nuts is how badly we stopped the run. Notre Dame has excelled at stopping the run this year throughout the season.
Yeah.
And then we get in there today, we can't stop a mobile quarterback that we've done all year. We can't stop a running back. Our defensive line was on their heels all night.
Yeah.
It made no sense to me. It's so we don't have Kyle Hamilton. We didn't have him for a good chunk of the end of the season, and we did fine.
I mean, Hamilton is a difference maker, but I agree with you. His influence, especially in the latter part of the season, Notre Dame did okay, especially up front. It seemed like our O-line could not just penetrate through their O-line. The offensive line, I have to give credit to Oklahoma State. They stifled our rushing attack, our pressure upon Sanders. I mean, and when things were not downfield, Sanders had just nothing but grass in front of him. He amassed 125 yards with a long of 26, averaging 7.4 yards, on 17 carries. He was by far the leading rusher of the entire game. So I'm disappointed. Unfortunately, this feeling is far too familiar for
very familiar
for us. So
I'm banging my head on the wall trying to figure out how have we made Brian Kelly look like a genius.
Well, I wouldn't say that because not to start comparing Marcus Freeman to Brian Kelly, but
and I'm not doing that.
I know you're not.
I don't put any blame on Marcus. It's his first game, and he had 2 or 3 weeks to get ready for it. But it's just the caliber of defense we've had at the end of the season with a month to prepare. and everything we've heard about how Freeman's practices were and how upbeat and positive the players were about it leading up to this game, and then it's just nosedive.
I mean, to put it in perspective, Oklahoma State averaged 181 rushing yards a game. They had 234 rushing yards today. It's quite ridiculous on just the flip of that. And I mean, just once again, Notre Dame just just does not get it done in these big bowl games. And
it is as if we are cursed. Ever since Lou Holtz left, we have been cursed in these big bowl games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what the way to go from this, but anyway, Coach, we've got a couple other people on. I really appreciate you jumping back on here. Two-time contributor to the Fighting Irish Faithful show. This is at Coach Parsegian. Coach, thanks for joining us. We're gonna move on to someone else. We've got we're gonna go with someone who's been in here for a while. We're gonna go with Steve Rickerson. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but at Strickerson, who's been invited to speak. So thank you, Coach. Mr. Rickerson, do I have you on here? Go ahead and unmute yourself if you wish to join. Hit the pink button in the bottom.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome, sir, to the Fighting Irish Faithful show live. Sorry it's not, we're not, popping champagne corks here for you.
Well, it is what it is. We all were celebrating in the second quarter when we're up 28-7. Looked like everything's moving in perfect direction for Marcus and his first start. And we're all here scratching our heads and as Coach said, banging our heads against the wall because we're back in the same position we always are, failing on the big stage. We got a month to prepare after the end of the season, and how is it possible? We got as long as it is to prepare, and we come out, and once again, we can't tackle. We let people run up the middle. We've got no linebackers in the middle because we're blitzing every play and letting the running back or Sanders go right by our blitzing package, and then there's nobody but the safeties that have to adjust and come down. He's at 7, 8, or 15 yards on every run. It's absolutely absurd. What we had to watch there in the second half, they adjusted everything. We got 37 seconds at the end of the first half with 3 timeouts. We're up 2 touchdowns, and say, hey, at least let's do something. Our offense has been unstoppable up to that point. And we just sat on the ball, ran it once, let the clock run out, go into the second half, and we shut our own offense down for the rest of the game, basically.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, did Oklahoma State also score in like 4 plays leading up to that?
There was about a minute 7 when they got the ball, and they went right down the field and scored on our defense. That basically sat back, let them go right down. They score, and then we decided that we're okay. We got a 2-touchdown lead. We're rolling. Why should we do anything else? Well, obviously, attack. Never take your foot off the gas, because once we did,
4 plays, 75 yards. 4 plays, 75 yards, 39 seconds. Oklahoma State brings it within 14 going into halftime. And then upon their first possession in the third quarter, they deferred to the second half because they're an intelligent football team. Mike Gundy's been there, done that, knows what he's talking about after winning the coin toss.
I blame the woman that tossed the coin. That was the worst toss.
And I was like, that's so weak.
I was like, they never even gave us a chance.
Like, really? What was that? And even the ref, the official was like, wait, what was that? Like, I think he was surprised at how poor the toss was. But no, I'm glad you brought up our defense and our inability to tackle. I wasn't going to go to the extent of having any Brian Van Gorder comments, but I was looking for a GIF of like a rodeo trying to tackle a grease pig at like your county fair kind of situation. That's what it looked like.
That's about what we looked like.
It was pretty bad. So I'm really, really disappointed about the outcome of of our team. Where do you see this? I mean, geez, the blue and gold game, and the next season is so far away, and I don't really want to start looking forward.
Well, I mean, we've got to have improvement in the back half of the defense. There's no question. I mean, Lewis and Bracey. I mean, it seemed like they never went against Hart most of the game. They attacked Bracey, they attacked Lewis the entire second half, and he looked lost. He couldn't find the ball, and even when he was in position, he wasn't making plays on the ball. And we never had safety coming over to help as well with when we needed obvious need for it. And when the safeties were in coverage on some of their slot receivers, our safeties are 12 yards off, and that's easy completions, just like what we had the first half. That was easy completions for them. So we've got to improve and tighten. I've said that for years. We've seen that for years. Our corners and safeties play way off the receivers and give them just easy 7-8 yards, and it's no challenge. And they've got to tighten that up. We've got to have more aggressiveness, which we've seen from Hart, but we need that on the other side as well. We can't just have it on one side. So we've got 9 months to get ready to go into Columbus.
Yep.
Into a hostile environment, which I am going to be there.
Oh,
I can't wait
excellent.
for that. We've got to come out, see what Tyler Buckner can give us. We're all expecting that he's going to be the guy we're going to, which I hope so, because I see more just being dual threat. It seems like he's got that spark that we can use the whole time, and hopefully light up Ohio State and as to what's happening to them with Utah, hopefully. So,
yeah, right. I'm not even really following that game right now. I turned it off in the other room, but
it's very passive. I could care less because I'm just so depressed right now.
Right. Yeah. It's like, where's the Jameson? I'm reaching for that, not the remote. Do you? Because pass rush kind of comes in 2 flavors. It's okay. You have your secondary, you have your cornerbacks, your defensive backs, right? That's I think a very important piece of that. But your front 7, they play in, I want to say a 45% factor of that. A good pass defense usually has good tackles for loss, good sacks, things of that nature. And unfortunately, ESPN doesn't update their stats right after the game, so I can't see what the disparity was there. But what's your take of the defensive line? In my opinion, I thought they were very mediocre tonight, and not that I'm calling these guys out, but they just did not get home.
Well, Foskey got home early and got the early sack in the first drive, and then after that, even a few times where we would put pressure, we couldn't get a hand on them, or they were calling draws or quarterback, the zone read or the runs that he was able to escape the pocket. So they couldn't get home flat out, we couldn't tackle. And it was that way the entire second half. Really the whole game, we could not tackle. Our linebackers were missing arm tackles, and just letting them run right through us. So, we've seen that for years in bowl games. That happened in the 2012 against Alabama. That happened against Clemson. That happened against. We were tackled the entire season, and nobody can.
I'm gonna have night terrors thinking of this game.
We get to the bowl game, and it's completely different.
Yeah, all it takes is put Notre Dame in a big bowl game, and it's like we can't tackle. There's just daylight, and we're just arm tackling and sliding off guys. And thank God the team made it interesting at the end. And it comes down to a special teams play. That's
exactly.
At that point it's kind of a Hail Mary. Get your rosary out and let's see what happens. But
we've got to stop missing 30-yard field goals.
Yeah.
I know we can't. The game is not on door, but he had the one time he was called upon, he missed.
Yeah.
And how many times we've seen him make 45-yarders or 50-yarders, but he can't make a 35-yarder. It's absolutely infuriating.
Yeah, he's no Justin Yoon. I will say that.
Huge.
He's no Justin Yoon.
No, I miss Justin Yoon.
Yeah, I think everyone misses Yoon. It was a 41-yard field goal, and I remember when they lined up, I was like, oh, it's over 40 yards. He should get this, and then he misses it, and he pushes it to the right. And I'm just like, well, damn it. And then I saw a tweet, I think it was from @JTrain. He said shortly thereafter that minus that 3 points we didn't get may come into play. How much did Notre Dame lose by?
It certainly did. The 2 points.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the difference.
It is the difference.
Everything. This is what I tell my son at all his ball games. I was like, every ball matters. Every single play matters, no matter how insignificant it may seem. Every single play matters. So you have to give every single effort on every single play and never stop.
Absolutely.
So, you can't let anything go. You can't take anything for granted. So, it is what it is.
It is. Well, Steve, I really appreciate your contribution. What's your Twitter handle here?
It's Strickerson is at Strickerson.
At Strickerson. Well, thank you for joining. I sent you a follow there on Twitter. Thank you for contributing to the post-game show. We're going to move on to someone who I don't know who this is, but we're going to move on. So thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
And go Irish.
Go Irish.
All right. So that was Strickerson. He's I've seen him on Twitter. He's a good guy. We're going to move on to someone. I'm not sure who this is, but at Berkshire Yank. You've been on here for a while. Thank you for your patience. At Berkshire Yank, a.k.a. Gap. Looks like you got some Minnesota Vikings look. You're right now listening, but if you'd like to speak, by all means, please. You've been invited to speak, and unmute yourself. You've been waiting for a while. While that's going on... Oh, there you are, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's my first time doing this, so I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. This is our sophomore episode here. I see Red Snapper 9098, my brother, my co-host, has jumped on, so I've invited him from the speakers list. But
that's cool. I'll be brief. I don't have a lot to say.
That's okay. No, this is your show right now at Berkshire Yank.
I've enjoyed this conversation. Like everybody, I'm very disappointed. I feel badly for Marcus Freeman. I think the bottom line for me, though, is I go back to, I don't know how old you guys are. I'm 55, so I lived through Era, Divine, Faust, and those guys. But it just, the thing that always comes back to me is when Lou Holtz went down to play Alabama in his first year, and they got beat, and he got on the bus, and he sat down, he called Vinny Serrato over, and he said, we got to get some players in this program. And I think Marcus Freeman knows that, and, as all due respect to the players, they just don't have the guys that can make the plays, particularly on defense. I mean, how many times did you see the pocket collapse and 4-5 Notre Dame run past the quarterback, and the quarterback come out right the middle flushed and go for a big gain? They were blitzing like crazy. They couldn't get to the quarterback blitzing.
Yeah, we could not get home. It was it was almost as frustrating as a couple years ago when we just could not get to Trevor Lawrence in the playoff game. We were right there, but he always just seemed to be half a step ahead of us. And unfortunately for him, he had the arm and the legs and just tore us apart. And we couldn't do anything. At least we put up 35 points, which is quite remarkable. And not surprising, with the way the game started. So I see my brothers joined us at West Coast Irish, Red Snapper 9098. What's your take on this?
It was great first half, but what changes should have been made that weren't? They looked exactly the same when they came out the second half, but the things that were working, like the quick little sideline passes, the little wide receiver screens, the crossing routes, which they eventually scored on with a minute something left. Where was all of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter? The offense was very one note, okay, I get it, you're not running the ball. How about you get out of the damn RPO then?
Yeah.
For me, I am all about RTDB. And why?
Ditto.
In 2 pitch plays. Just really random, just quick pitches that were just out off tackle to the short side of the field that got 8 yards, each of them. Why aren't we lining up in a set we're already in with 3 tight ends to a side and it's the damn thing to the wide side of the field? Nobody could have done anything.
Maybe we'll ask that question to our contributor here at Berkshire Yank. What's your take of the running game or the lack thereof? 42 rushing yards is not going to get it done in a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a good point. I mean, first of all, you have a quarterback that's no threat to run, so that's strike one.
Strike one.
Defense.
That's what I bitched about earlier in the season, and I said this is why I would prefer Buckner because he's a threat with his legs.
Yes. Whatever happened to sweeps and traps and to misdirection? It seems like their only plays that they hand the ball to the back. He stands there and dances around, looking around for a hole instead of hitting a hole. I mean, when 3rd and 2 becomes a passing down, that is very frustrating. And I could see later in the first half, Oklahoma State made the adjustment. They said, "Okay, you're passing on us. We can't stop it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop 8 and play 3 down linemen." Now, if you can't run the ball against a 3-man front, you're going to have a long day. And that's what happened in the second half. They went to a 3-man front, and Notre Dame couldn't run, and now you're forced to pass against 8 guys that are back there. So that you've got to be able to run football.
I agree.
I'm going to say what I've said all season long is when Cone is zero threat to run, an RPO-style run offense makes 0 sense. If Buckner's in there, you have to at least be honest with him because the option of him keeping the ball is a threat. With Jack Cone, it's not.
No. The ends just crash down to the runner. There's no fear of Jack Cone tucking and going at all. Exactly right.
I mean, it would be better if Cone did some trickeration. They did a double reverse flea flicker before they tried Wildcat. They completely abandoned the run, and this makes me nervous because I don't have the numbers in front of me. But in the blue and gold game, and Grant, there's not a lot of comparison between the blue and gold game and a New Year's Six. Don't get me wrong, but Notre Dame ran the ball 20% of the time in the blue and gold game. Now, Grant, we're trying to look for a quarterback in that glorified practice, but we ran the ball 23% tonight. No team that's going to win any of these big games is going to run the ball that amount. No one. Unless you're Alabama and you have Bryce Young. But I guarantee you, and I haven't looked at the stats of Alabama, they're not going to do that. They know you have to have a balanced attack, and you have to make the defense honest with a running threat. And 42 rushing yards just is not getting done. So.
Nope, absolutely not.
Well, Gap, thank you. What's your Twitter handle again for all our listeners?
I think it's at Berkshire.
At Berkshire.
I appreciate it, guys. Enjoyed it.
All right, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And Red Snapper, welcome, co-host. It's nice to see you. All right, we're going to move on. Hopefully he's not driving his truck, but we're going to invite at Mike Sloan 01 to join us as our next guest in the Fighting Irish Faithful show, live post-game from from Indiana, where it's rainy and the weather outside is very reflective of my mood right now. Is it at least sunny out there for you, bro?
It is.
Yeah.
It's typical January 1st, perfect, beautiful weather. Rose Bowl.
Yeah, Rose Bowl. Go dip your head in a bathtub or something. Mike Sloan 1, are you with us, sir?
I am here, my brother.
Oh, thank you for delivering me my laundry detergent and my Christmas presents, sir.
No doubt. Hey, I wish I could have delivered, a crate full of adjustments for the coaching staff. Jesus Christ. This one hurts. What hurts is the fact that everything looked so easy to start the game off. And what was bad, that first scoring drive we had, a buddy of mine texted me. He's like, "Man, you guys are looking real good." And I told him, I said, "You know what's bad, though? For whatever reason, I don't know if it was just my perception of it or what. I said, these guys look like they're only on about 70% speed of what they should be for this kind of a game."
Yeah.
It just seemed like starting off they were playing I don't know if it was like sluggish. It was like there was just no, I don't know, just no urgency, no.
There was no pop.
There's no killer instinct. There's no killer instinct. You know, I mean, it's one thing to be confident, which they clearly were when they went up 14-0. And granted, I'm tweeting out stuff where I'm screaming and yelling and making my baby cry because he's like never seen dad like this before. But the demeanor of the players was not a killer instinct of let's go, let's get after it, let's put more points, let's run up the scoreboard, let's run it down their throat. None of that, and it's impossible to do that if you don't run the football. But, and I'm not, saying there's like the team needs an attitude adjustment. That's not what I'm saying. But there is definitely a lack of intensity that I think you're making a great point.
Well, it was like there was a few ways to look at it. We're used to seeing them come out, try to run the ball a few times. A lot of times it ended up in a 3 and out. But, coming out, throwing the ball around, I'm like, okay, the handcuffs are off. Tommy's, he's wanting to be able to go a little bit nuts, which we were all hoping for. Got to hand it to them. Hell, they didn't need to run the ball. I mean, there was no reason to. The pass game was working great. And what little bit of run they tried to do, they wouldn't make any gains with it. But, hell, if they're going to give you the pass and give you the field the whole first half, hell, take it. I mean, 350 yards almost in the air?
Yeah.
It worked, and, hell, no wonder. I mean, I don't have a problem with them not running the ball. They didn't need to. My problem is, as the first half winded down and the momentum changed, there was no adjustments at all. I mean, it just seemed like they were still going to the same plays that all of a sudden, those guys weren't open. And I don't know. I'm still trying to process everything. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
How you can have that big of a collapse over the course of 2 halves.
Yeah, I don't know if it's overconfidence or if it's anything of that nature of, oh, we got this in the bag because we got Marcus Freeman or anything like that. But I have a pop quiz for my co-host here. Red Snapper, 9098. Do you know how many passing yards Notre Dame had? Unless you have the stats up. But just guess. Off chance guess. Your knee-jerk reaction.
It was like 450 yards.
It's more. It's 509.
Yeah,
and we lost the game.
That was in the first.
Yeah. 500 effing yards. Go outside and throw a ball 500 yards and tell me, respect to Cone. I mean, that's a lot of yards to throw. I mean, shit. And all of your touchdowns being passing touchdowns, but it's like, I mean, again, I said this on the last show. I said this on our last show, which was live for Cowboys and Catholics, part 3. I said no team that wins big in a sustainable way will have just 100% passing success and no rushing success. It just does not happen. There may be a game or two, but the trend tends not to be that. Now, I agree with you, Mike Sloan, where we look, if it's there, take what they give you, right? Don't get me wrong. But the play selection cannot be 23% run. It can't be. It can't be.
No, they definitely needed to mix it up more. I don't know. It just seemed like I don't know. From the very beginning, there was already things that stuck out to me that made me just kind of leery. Not so much, of course, when we had the big lead, but it was like their footing was off. They were slipping. They were hesitant on a lot of the reads. I don't know. Like I'd actually like to go back and watch the game again, believe it or not, just to kind of process everything and put it together. But at this point, I mean, what good's it going to do other than just, anger me even more? So
yeah, I mean, not to make you angry or anything of that nature, but in the Cincinnati game, our other loss this season, Notre Dame ran the ball 37% of the time, so this time was worse. Grant, we lost by 11 points, but we ran the ball for 84 yards. Now, surprisingly, that's not our lowest total of rushing yards for the season. That was actually Wisconsin. Wisconsin, we only ran the ball for 9 positive yards. Grant, the defense totally saved the game there in the fourth quarter, and I'm kind of like, well, maybe the defense will come out with some miraculous stop, and surprisingly they did. They ended up getting that fumble, which was amazing. The sideline ref, she, from her angle, I think if I was her, I would have made the same call, but then they went to replay, and then, thank God for, modern cameras, to overturn that on the call on the field that it was down when it was really a fumble. So good on the refs there. I think they made a good call there, but, it shouldn't come down to that, right? We clearly have the talent disparity between us and Oklahoma State. I talked about this, I think, 2 shows ago. Notre Dame has way more talent even now. Right now, our 4-year recruiting average is 13. They're 35. And it's only going to go up and up and get better with Coach Freeman. So, the future is bright, but right now that brightness is a little small because of the damn horseshoe in Columbus. So.
Yeah, it's like the O-line didn't look like the O-line that we saw the last 6-7 games of the year. The O-line looked like it looked the first 3 games of the season.
They look nervous. I mean, the false starts and some of the other things, like the missed snaps, like that's just nerves. That's just
what's more infuriating is when it comes from your damn captain.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Gosh, I mean, you got McGlinchey back there again?
What was worse than anything was just all the missed tackles. I mean, golly, not 1 or 2 here and there. I mean,
they could not wrap up just in their life. Yeah.
I don't know who has the stats, what network or news site has the count of missed tackles, but man, if I had $1 for every missed tackle Notre Dame had, I might take some more vacation next week. I'm just going to say that. So, well, Mike, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you, sir. Been a while. I've followed you on Twitter for ever since my inception. So, thanks for joining. Sorry we couldn't bring you a better, more delightful show on New Year's Day, but I appreciate your input and your feedback at Mike Sloan 01.
Oh yeah, man! I appreciate all the content you put out. Hey, kind of sucks that we'll have some downtime to not jaw jack and talk shit about the games and all that.
Well, if you want some jaw jacking, I'll happily throw some anti-Calipari hate your way. How about that? So, because I know you're a Kentucky. For the record, I have no problem with Kentucky basketball. I just don't like your coach. That's as simple as that. So, all right, at Mike Slow 1, thank you, sir, for joining us. Thank you.
All right, buddy.
All right, bro. We're gonna move on. What's your take, Red Snapper 9098? Before we move on to our next person, I see Joe Esquire. You're next in the queue. ND Fanatics. I see you there. Timothy Fish, Don. Hang on, guys. We're just going in order here, but Joe will be next. But first, Red Snapper 9098. What's your 5-cent deduction?
I think I've already said it. Is based on personnel. It's based on your personnel. The defense looked nervous. Just basic fundamentals to me. Wrapping up, tackling. When you've got an open lane to the quarterback, you got to get in there with your hands up. I mean, he was either sidestepping the guys that had the clear lane to him, run right over their heads, and it's because people didn't have their hands up. So it was kind of frustrating. But did we see Buckner at all?
No. No, he didn't get a single snap.
That's frustrating.
That is,
because
especially in that third quarter.
When everybody on the ball, why then wouldn't you come out? Especially after the first series died in the third quarter. You just came out at halftime. Why wouldn't you put in Buckner just to see, does he light a spark?
Or just to change things up, throw Oklahoma State off their axis.
You can sit there and you can look at how Nick Saban use Jalen Hurts and then all of a sudden pulls in to a Tagovailoa.
Tagovailoa, yeah, absolutely.
You know, it just, you have to be able to make those adjustments. And that to me was the heartening part of it.
I mean, when Oklahoma State scores 17 points in the third quarter, okay, and Notre Dame, 17 points, one quarter. I mean, like, hello,
and that's
like, there's a problem. Ooh, you know, siren. You know, we down here in my town, we test the tornado sirens, you know, every day every weekday at 11 o'clock or whatever, and like that's what that is. Like, that's a tornado siren. Like, hello, 17 points to your 0 in the third quarter. You got to do something different. Now, granted, defense kind of, you know, pulled it together and held Oklahoma State to just 6 points and 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, which I think was miraculous. Because it was looking really bad for a while. So I've got a question, a Marcus Freeman question, but I think I'm going to pose it to our next contributor here if they so wish to speak. Joe Esquire, I love your background there of Boromir rubbing his head. That's exactly how I feel. At Joe Irish 13, welcome to the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Unmute your microphone. You have been invited to join us as the speaker. Joe Esquire. Doctor, is this Dr. Joe? Unmute. Hit the pink button.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Doctor.
Yep.
Dr. Joe. Yes, you can call me Professor Doctor. That's fine.
Hey, if you got a PhD, hey, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. If I had a PhD, I would request people call me doctor, because let's face it, the title of doctor associated with anyone's PhD was long established in academia long before modern medical doctors, and that's just, you know, my 2 cents here. Okay,
I agree.
We'll talk elsewhere about academics. Congratulations, by the way. Huge props to you. What I have a Marcus Freeman question for you, sir. First off, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Marcus Freeman on the sidelines, you know, he didn't look too different that he did as a defensive coordinator, but do you think he should have been a little more fired up, a little more engaging? And Grant, you know, I'm only limited to what ESPN is showing me when they put the camera on him, but do you think he should have more engagement, more involvement with the offense, a little more, like did he give Reese too much, freedom, or should he have said, hey, maybe we should try something new?
I don't know. I mean, I really liked how they came out. I thought they came out and looked completely different. I don't remember seeing them throw the ball like that, the way they did in the first quarter. Like, yeah. that was so aggressive, and I just don't remember them playing like that this season. Maybe it reminded me of Florida State. But I don't know. I don't know what his involvement in the offense was. I think he let Tommy Reese do what he wanted, because, like I said, that did not, if Brian Kelly was there, I feel like they would not have been that aggressive to start the game.
I agree.
So I like that he gave him leeway. I don't know. My basic take on the game was that that loss to me is not on the offense. I understand people wanted to see Tyler Buckner, but I haven't looked at the stats, but Jack Cohn threw for 509 yards, right?
Right.
He was playing out of his mind in the beginning of the game. I know he was missing receivers, but the throws that he was making were awesome.
Yeah, other than the one interception, I think most of his throws were very good.
Which was a crazy interception. If you look at the angle, I don't understand how that guy made that interception. It was a great play.
Yeah, I think it's their captain. He's an All-American. He's a stand-up guy.
Great. Yeah, he played great. Yeah, man. I mean, I just don't think it was on the offense. I wanted to see Tyler Buckner in those last 2 drives. The offense had the ball to win the game. That was a terrible drive. Did they go 3 and out, or did they get even one first down where they got the fumble when Sandro Sanders fumbled the ball? I don't even know if they got a first down there. But yeah, my basic take is that it's kind of disappointing, because I thought the defense would have played better with Freeman in his first game. That I was just very surprised
it was shades of Cincinnati to me in the way that they just couldn't tackle. They lost contain on the quarterback. Like he looked like Desmond Ritter, the way he was running all over them.
Lord.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm still not like completely dejected. Like I still like Freeman and what he's doing with the team, but that's a bad loss, man. Especially with the way they played defense. You could see it too. Like you can see it the way they were letting them like when Oklahoma State got in a rhythm on offense, like they never went back. Like they did. The only time that they stopped them was that fumble, right?
Right.
I don't think maybe they had one other stop where they stopped them and Oklahoma State kicked the field goal.
Yeah,
but like,
the field goal.
Oklahoma State once they were in rhythm, they were extremely hard to get out of rhythm. Like they never got them out of rhythm again.
I mean, they moved the ball. We punted down, and I said to the doc, I said to my wife, who is a doctor, but I said to her, I said, like we had stifled on a drive in the third quarter, and we had punted it way down, and Oklahoma State started on the 10-yard line, and I'm like, well, you know what? We flipped the field. That matters. Right, in the grand scheme of the game, and they came down and they marched 90 yards or whatever it was and scored a touchdown, and I'm like, what the fuck,
Yeah, no, I feel like that was every time Oklahoma State had the ball. I was like, what is going on? Like they're moving it so easily on us. Yeah.
So I don't know.
It was painful.
I mean, what's your take going into next season? Is this something that you think the team can fix? Is it just, he has to now abuse everyone over the summer and into fall camp, before and really put the Marcus Freeman stamp on the team. And so he's just, I realize there's only so much you can do and introduce that's new in 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But what's your take going forward?
I think they'll be fine. I really do. Like, I'm not, like, complete doom and gloom like the program is. Like, we're not going to beat Ohio State. Like, I think we have just as good a shot to beat Ohio State as we did to beat Oklahoma State. Like, this was a coin flip game. Like, that was a very good football team that they played.
Yep,
like, it wasn't that wasn't a bad team.
Thanks to Baylor, they did not make the playoffs and get boat raced by Alabama, right?
It's pretty funny if Oklahoma State won that game, we probably would have been playing Cincinnati, right?
That is not far from the truth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Red Snapper, what do you think of that? If Baylor had screwed the pooch and did not make that tackle and Oklahoma State had won, what's your take on this?
Yeah, that would have been interesting to see. I don't think Cincinnati would have made the playoff. So I think, would we have been paired up with them? Probably not. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting because you have, the teams all got, specific bowl games based on location or conference. So it's not like we were going to play Ohio State. It's not like we were going to play, Utah. We aren't going to play, somebody lower than, could we have played Pitt maybe? Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I think a Peach Bowl, Sugar Bowl would have maybe happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I don't think they went in, and in 3 weeks you can't redo things. So I think the off season is going to be about what did he like from this game, what did he not like, what is he going to choose and really put his own stamp on it. So if anything, it's going to be an attrition game of, this is what I liked. This is what we're going to keep. This is how I'm now going to monitor and manage you, Tommy Reese, as offensive coordinator, because now I know after giving you an entire game of, complete autonomy, now I'm going to control a certain level to it. So I think that definitely is going to play in the off season, because you're not going to do that, from getting the job to now the bowl game on January 1st. So I think time to really step in and be that detailed. I think now you do the work, and it's players, it's personnel, it's understanding, team chemistry. There's lots of elements that are going to go into it, but I think thing, it's a good message of where are Tommy Rees's propensities, like what does he favor, and finding how, as a defensive coordinator, how I can game plan for that. And so having that play between previous with an offensive coordinator now as the head coach being able to overrule you, I think that definitely is going to play forward. So I see it as a good thing. I see it as a learning experience, and I can't wait to actually see how they prepare for Ohio State.
Agreed. I think you're 100% right, and I'll send it back to Joe here in a second. But I do think that you're onto something where, look, Marcus Freeman has not been a head coach before, and I mentioned this in our last show with 5 Foot Nothing Pod, how the inexperience of Marcus Freeman has zero head coaching ability, and being comfortable in having the ability, the executive decision to say, no, I'm the head coach, we're going to do this, not that, and so on and so forth, and be in a position to overrule his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. It doesn't matter. You're the head coach. You're the one that has to go in front of the media. You're the one that gets the win-loss, record associated with it. And not that it's about ego or anything, but you are in the position of power. You do have veto power to make decisions, regardless of what the other coaches think. Yes, you could clearly see the unhingedness of Tommy Rees, let loose, flying crazy in the first quarter. But at the same time, when that third quarter was happening, it is very possible that, maybe Marcus Freeman's inexperience prevented him from saying, hey, we need to do something different. We need to run the ball more. We need to attack. We need to do power running. We need to do Wildcat. We need to do Buckner. Look, do something. And granted, I'm a run the ball guy, so sue me. But Joe, one last question to you. Excuse me, Dr. Joe. Before we let you go,
thank you for including that.
Hey, call me out anytime I don't do that. Everyone else will refer to you as Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe, last thoughts here on the game. The floor is yours, Doctor.
Well, I guess you could throw this out for anybody else who comes up after me to speak. Do you think they came into the game like thinking that they were going to be able to run the ball at all? Because I don't think they ever planned on running the football, which was surprising because I didn't think they were incapable of doing that against Oklahoma State. I felt like if they had tried, they would have been able to at least run the ball enough. But there was just no attempt at it at all. I felt like when I was watching the game. Like I said, I do like how aggressive they were. And I agree with you in the sense that maybe Marcus Freeman didn't feel like he had the not that he didn't have the cachet, but he didn't have enough experience to say to Rees, this is what we need to do differently. It's not working, because the offense did stall in the second half.
In a response to that, and in no way am I defending not a lack of rushing the ball with what I'm about to say. But look, I talk about stats and numbers and data every time on this show, which is what I think distinguishes this show from the other guys that anyone will listen to, right?
Yeah.
The defense of Oklahoma State was 5th in the country, averaging 91 rushing yards a game for their opponent. And if you look deeper into those numbers, they only had allowed 9 rushing touchdowns all season for their opponents. So if you're Notre Dame, 5, right? And you lose it, number 5 in the country, if you are Notre Dame and you lose, quote unquote, your best offensive weapon, i.e. Kyron Williams, who had 14 rushing touchdowns this season, what do you do, right? So, look, I'm not going to, be a woe is me kind of, defeatist kind of shit. But at the end of the day, the problem is, okay, we have lost our huge rushing offensive weapon. Someone who is very elusive, I got shit on Twitter because I made just simple facts and data and numbers saying that Kyron Williams did not deserve to have some sort of, running back award trophy. But I said, look, he doesn't have as many rushing touchdowns as X or Y, right? And I got shit for that. So, Dr. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to move on to some people here who have been very patient. I see ND Fanatics. I see Angry Brian Kelly, Chipster, Timothy, Rashad. But next, we're going to move on to Cosmic Debris. Joseph, another Joe. Hey, maybe we're going to move on to that. So, Dr. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. But next guest to the Fighting Irish Faithful post-game show will be at Cosmic Debris, inviting you to speak, sir. Go ahead and unmute yourself and speak when you can. Hit the pink button. I see you've requested. Add a speaker. You may now speak.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
Hello, sir. Well, I mean, we've felt better. When my son was born, I felt amazing. Tonight, not so much.
No, yeah, still.
It's a very yin yang there.
Still pretty hollowed out from this one. I'm still this.
Do you feel that this as I pour more whiskey, is this feeling all too familiar to you? We get to a big bowl game and we just shit the bed.
All too familiar.
I mean, I'm not saying like you look at the scoreboard, we didn't shit the bed, right? Okay, we made it interesting.
What sucks is that I really felt and thought that this was the day that we were going to check, get this box checked off and move on as a program.
Yeah. No, so, it's still a box that will remain unchecked since 1994. Yep.
I told some friends, I was like, watching this game was more painful than watching those 2 playoff losses. And I just, just watching that game, and Joe, Dr. Joe Esquire, I'm friends with on here. I knew Clarence Lewis sucked. I didn't think he sucked that bad. Jesus Christ. And going into next year,
I think we need more Jesus in the background for sure.
Moving forward, I think that they're going to be fine. They'll be fine. But I don't think J.D. Bertrand cannot start next year. That boy just he cannot start next year. They've got to come with another proven pass rusher besides Isaiah Foskey. And it's just I know listening to Joe, you can say, well, the offense never lost this game, but anyone that follows me on Twitter and on the message boards, I'm sorry, guys. I freaking hate Jack Cohn. I cannot stand that boy. Get the fuck away from my college football team and never set foot on campus, please.
I appreciate one thing about Cohn, if I may. So 2 things I want to respond to. First is Bertrand. He is, once Kyle Hamilton got injured and mysteriously kind of fizzled away to do podcasts and I guess work out with the team. We won't go too much into that, but when Bertrand became the leading tackler on the team, and he was kind of playing an outside linebacker kind of position. Now, I do not know how much eligibility he has, but he tends to be around the ball at times. Now, he may not have the most athleticism like a middle linebacker Manti Te'o guy, or God forbid, Jalen Sneed coming in as a freshman, but he will have mountains of experience more than a Jalen Sneed. in addition to that, he does have a nose for the ball much more than, say, a Joe Schmidt did for Notre Dame. And I, as the season has gone, have appreciated J.D. Bertrand more so than I did at the beginning of the season. I was like, who the hell is this guy, right? And he's coming in, making tackles, making big plays. I think using him as a pass rusher is not his strength. But granted, then you start questioning, well, what is his ability? What is his speed? Does he have the ability to be in the pursue position? I don't know. But I do think he has a definite place on our defense. With response to Jack Cohn, and then I'll throw it back to you, or even I'll let Red Snapper chime in here. Cohn is someone who I can't figure out. I kind of scratch my head, but I do know his strengths are throwing the ball, and he does show composure. But when the pocket collapses, forget about it. Just throw it away. Don't even attempt to run the ball like Ian Book could. And if he's trying to do that, just don't do it, because you just don't have the tools in the toolbox.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, did the offense lose the game? No, but in a sense, I kind of feel like if Tyler Buckner is in there,
What do you risk by putting Buckner in?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I get all that, but it's like the moment something doesn't work out, that's it for him. It's like his skill set, like, immediately closes the door on like 75% of your playbook.
Yeah,
Jack.
There's no evolution.
Whereas if Tyler Buckner is in there, you can say, well, the defense, the offense never lost it. But yeah, I think Tim O'Malley put a tweet out, said like 5 of Notre Dame's 6 or 7 second half drives lasted 1 minute. You put Tyler Buckner in there, you give the defense, okay, now you have to account, we have responsibilities for him, which that's Kyron Williams or no Kyron Williams. That's going to open up things for Diggs, Estimate, and Chris. That's going to open things up for his legs can extend plays. So now you got the defense now has new responsibilities. So your playbook becomes even more expanded. That's going to result in drives getting more extended, taking more time off the clock. And like at one point, Joe did tweet, this game was 28-7 at one point.
Yep.
27. So to me, the big bright spot out of this is I don't have to watch Jack Coon anymore because when something, like even when like they were trying to come, I mean, so many times I saw on the, I'm watching the game and I'm like, okay, dude, all that you got to do is, if that's Buckner, he just takes off, gets 10, 15 yards, scampers out of bounds, the clock stops. Okay? Yeah. So I just, that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been aching for all season long. And I understand that, when Brian Kelly was here, that, that they didn't want to put an inexperienced true freshman quarterback out there, hanging out to dry. Let's put this, and I get all that. But at some point, this young man is going to be the future of your program for at least the years. Okay, let's say, what in the hell is wrong with giving this boy meaningful snaps with the first teamers for extended? I'm not talking a drive here, a drive there.
Just a series. Like, hey, we didn't succeed on 1st and 10. It was an incomplete pass. Hey, it's 2nd and 10. Why don't you throw Buckner out there for the next 2 plays and see what happens, right? Throw something different out there. The defense maybe is like, whoa, what's this, right? I mean, sometimes like football, I believe, is like hungry hippos, right? It's how hard you can smash a lever and just pound into your opponent, right? Which is why I'm a big proponent of running the football, especially in an I formation or something like that, But if you can also use a little bit of misdirection with that, then you've got something. Okay, and not that it has to be checkers or chess, and you're trying to outsmart and outwit your opponent like it's some sort of some mind game here. That's not what it's about. It's all about overwhelming your opponent, and it's easy to do that. Number one, if you have better players, but two, if you're in a better position, either with numbers or just skill set, or just you're attacking empty space on the field, especially from an offensive standpoint. And I believe Buckner did that better, and we didn't see him at all.
Definitely. And I just, like I said, I mean, it's extremely frustrating when you see a young man that's got that kind of a skill set just sitting on the sideline when you know that. And I mean, I've been preaching since the Toledo game. It's just that whole entire team. He just, whenever he would set foot on the field, I mean, he put a charge. And those boys that seemed to respond to him that they never really responded to at all with Jack Cohn. Really, Jack Cohn just kind of dropped back. He used his experience of reading his, the coverages and this and that. I get all that.
He's very Iceman.
It just seemed like,
But they made zero movies about Iceman. They're, Top Gun is about Maverick, right?
There's times where, you need that, but I'm just one of those guys where I'm like, give me the athlete.
Yeah, give me who's dangerous.
The athlete. Yeah, give me the athlete, and let's go, and we'll figure the stuff out, later. So, and I'm also like I don't think, at what point, why was Cam never put on Tay Martin? I mean, anytime Oklahoma State anytime they wanted a first down, all they had to do was look up, find number 6, and throw it to him.
Talk to me.
Get a pick on Clarence Lewis. I mean, it was just so for me, a lot of ways, it was a weird game to watch, and I just I think I saw on the message board a little while ago. Their past 5 or 6 Oklahoma State. Their past 5 or 6 recruiting classes have averaged 38 in the country. Mm-hmm. Their recruiting classes can't touch Notre Dame's.
No.
And I see
average 33 the last 4 years per 24/7.
And I see the one play where the corner was pushed. It was late in the game where he was kind of pushing Lindsey to the sideline, and I mean, just phenomenal technique by that corner. And I was sitting there thinking, when's the last time a commentator has ever said, look how well Notre Dame's corners are coached.
Yeah,
and their technique is flawless.
That's exactly what I was just going to bring up. Is this game
Oklahoma State who gets 38 ranked recruiting classes.
Yeah, Red Snapper, what were you going to say about the cornerbacks?
Our cornerbacks. It showed how unskilled our defensive backs are. Absolutely, 100%. To me, I would say the fault is equally offense to defense. Why it is offense for lack of evolution, and defense because our DBs, when they were in single coverage, man-on coverage, they could not stop them. They just couldn't.
They couldn't do it.
Well, and it wasn't just this game, too. I think there were multiple games that resulted in, this kind of situation. When we're playing an inferior opponent, and I'm not talking about a shitty Stanford team that's down or Georgia Tech, right? But other teams that have some legit receivers that can create space, can have some muscle, can go up, high point a ball, right? I mean, Tay Martin, though, destroyed us and had 3 touchdowns against us, okay? Do you know that he was not their leading receiver? But
no, I was going to say, what's his name?
Presley. Brennan Presley had 137 yards, but 0 touchdowns, right? But he had a long of 41. So, I mean, it just goes to show that, that kind of stuff is happening. Well, Hey, Cosmic Debris, thanks so much for joining us. It's really great. Thank you for your contribution to the Fighting Irish Faithful show. We're going to move on to other people here who have been waiting patiently. Thank you so much, sir. This is the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Unfortunately, doing a post-game losing show, but right now we're going to go to @FanaticsND. Another contributor from the previous show, @FanaticsND. You are invited to join us. You've been waiting very patiently. Chipster, I see you. Angry Brian Kelly, I see you. I see Rashad. Thank you, everyone. Just hang in there. We'll try to get to everyone. Try to give everyone about 5 minutes here, and then I will watch some more football probably today. But ND Fanatics, are you there with us, sir? If not, we're going to move on to someone else. This is where I need that 1950s intermission music, Do 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 do. Well, if he's not gonna join, we're gonna move on. We're gonna mute you. All right, we're gonna. I don't know if I can uninvite someone to speak, but all right, Chipster, @Stadium Dude. Oh, this may be an internal person. Chipster, @Stadium Dude. Indie Fanatics. Crickets. Bueller. Stadium Dude has been invited to speak. Indie Fanatics, you lost your opportunity. All right, Chipster, you lost your opportunity. Fanatics ND, you there? This is bad radio.
Sorry, guys. I was walking between rooms. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Well, it's kind of a mediocre New Year right now.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello?
Hey, Chipster, we're going to put you on mute for right now. We got ND Fanatics. He was first in line, and you lost your spot. But hang on, we'll get back to you. ND Fanatics, you still there?
Yeah.
All right,
guys,
continue. Speak your mind. Just mind dump. Just first thing that comes to your mind about this game. Go.
Jack Cohn completion percentage below 56%.
Is it really?
Below 56%. So here's a sample size.
55.9. You are correct.
10 winning quarterbacks this bowl season. 83.3%, 73.7%, 60.7%, 63.6%, 65%. This quarterback was 53.6%, Texas Tech, but they rushed for 260 yards.
Holy shit.
77.8%,
If only
61.5%, 65.6%, and then South Carolina's quarterback, the starting quarterback, only threw it 9 times, 100%, and they rushed for 301 yards.
Go Gamecocks.
500 passing yards is great, but if you're missing 1 out of every 2 throws, you're not sustaining drive. I mean,
and
then
preach. Go.
Already said.
Keep going.
I was going to say, as many as you've already said, the defense was gas. They're not sustaining drives. He's getting, pressured and getting sacked because he doesn't have the feet. It's, you're going to lose. And look at Alabama and Georgia. Alabama rushed the ball 7 times. They threw the ball 17 times. Georgia rushed 35 times. They threw the ball 20 times. Were either teams in any question dominating opponents? They could have thrown the ball 60 times, but it's a ball control game. I mean, I hate to bring Brian Kelly into this, but what he was...
No, that's okay. We can shit on him anytime.
But because he was scared, he did do the ball control game last year's Rose Bowl. Notre Dame ran 80 plays to Alabama's 55.
Correct.
Because they probably would have lost 6-10 otherwise. That's something Mark Truman's going to have to figure out. You have to control the time of possession better. Notre Dame was, let's see,
we did win
30, 54.
We did win the time of possession. We had about 30 minutes. It's not much. It's 51% to their 48% ish.
Exactly.
But I think you raise a valid point. 500 yards is great, and this is what I said. Look, you can. I don't know if you've run. Are you running spreadsheets. You got like a MATLAB code, Fortran. I don't know what you got there. That was very impressive. We're gonna bring you on more with your numbers. That'll make my my hosting abilities easier. But at Fanatics ND on the Twitter, providing us with insight on the completion percentage of other successful winning quarterbacks in the bowl games. I would be very curious on, of these teams that are winning, what is their percentage breakdown of run to pass?
I didn't get that much, unfortunately. But one thing that you were talking about earlier, like OSU has a great defense. That's, understated. They held Baylor to under 100 yards of offense. But they also have the fourth worst ranked red zone defense in the country. So let's get in the red zone and let's try and push the running game, because you do have a couple guys. I was very disappointed they didn't use Audric Estime more. I think he had one attempt today. I mean, got this big bruiser. The offensive line struggling to make a push. So let's use our biggest, most powerful back. Like, this isn't rocket science, guys.
Red Snapper, do you want to chime in on that, on Estime and how he was grossly underutilized?
We didn't see Buckner, we didn't see Estime, and those are two players that I'm sorry should have been in this game based on our lack of ability to run the ball. That's just, and maybe it goes something as basic as, how Tommy Reese was as a quarterback is very much in the same thread as how Jack Cohn was. And so not having that escapability, not having the feet to do that, I think there's an acclamation, but in that you pigeonhole yourself to not thinking differently. And so why not have Jerome Bettis like running ability? If you're the quick little, shifty RPO's not working, let's just bruise the guy. Why not just run a wedge block with your guards and center and just dive a couple plays, get 1 or 2 yards on first down, like, and now you got to shrink everybody in. Yeah, shrink everybody in, and now, look, now all of a sudden I can start hitting some quick in slants, which, of course, with some of the guys like Lindsey, like Austin, they could have easily broke them, So, again, one play sets up another, and like you said, it's not chess versus checkers, but there's an element to creating habit and then exploiting people's participation of those habits. And we saw that when they blitzed, and Cohn read it perfectly for the second touchdown. That audible was perfect. But why don't you have, let's bring in different personnel groupings for different strengths. I agree.
And what's crazy about the game, and I'm a run the ball guy first, okay, and sometimes running the ball frees you up to pass. In this game, it was like, okay, we had so much success that first quarter passing the ball, 14 points right off the bat, right? That really loosened things up. That almost was like, look, now you freed up their defense to run the ball. But when we did that, we didn't even commit to it. I mean, we had 21 rushes, but really 4 of those are attributed to Cohn, which really means that 4 of those were actually passes. Okay, so we really only ran the ball about 17 times. 9 to Logan Diggs, 6 to Chris Tyree, 1 to Lindsey, and 1 to Estime. Like, are you shitting me? Like, look, I realize we're now in running back roulette, and we just got to kind of figure out who we want to hand the ball to. I get that, okay? But the problem here is we didn't even try. Like, and Tyree has so much speed. Instead we're doing flea flicker double reverses, which is completely stupid. Okay, well, you don't need to do that goofy shit. Just run the ball. Why don't you try to keep Oklahoma State's offense honest? Go 2 yards, run into the brick wall. And I'm not saying you need to sacrifice yourself like it's some overall chess game. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes they break free, but it keeps those linebackers honest. and it allows your receivers, your playmakers like Lindsey, like, Mayer, to get wide open in the flat, and then you get a first down. So, look, there's an advantage to play selection of choosing run versus pass, and that's my biggest problem with this game is we didn't even try it, which now forces your entire offense to be pass, 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 punt, pass, 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 punt, and it's like, give me a fucking break, okay? And I'm not gonna indict Reese at all, but if this is what we can expect going forward, this is an unsustainable model for Notre Dame. No team has had success doing that. Period.
Well, did we try jet sweeps? Did we try other forms of run that aren't traditional?
Right. Our offensive line is struggling all year, right? It has not been good.
The only reverse we ran was the flea flicker. How do you set up a flea flicker if you're not running jet sweeps or reverses?
Right.
The whole point of a flea flicker is that you're turning what has been a run and capitalizing on their over anticipation of it.
Correct.
Now we're going to toss it back and hit somebody. When he threw that ball to Mayer, there were two guys that were back covering him.
We run this one play which I absolutely love. It's like a toss. It's like a counter toss, right? Where all of a sudden the running back, who's I think in split back, and then all of a sudden quarterback gets it, he starts running with someone, and then he tosses it back, and it's kind of like a reverse toss. I don't even know what the play is, but I absolutely love it. And I kept saying to myself, gosh, if only we had CJ Procise. If CJ Procise had been running that play back 2015, I'm just like, oh man, and they ended up handing it to Lindsey, and don't get me wrong, Lindsey is fast as hell, but he just does not have the cut that Procise did, and nor the muscle to break a tackle.
Yeah, I think both of you called down.
Let's go to the caller. Let's go to
Indy
Fanatics.
When you said, what is OSU game plan for offensively? I think in the first half, they didn't really know it was coming. Notre Dame was, adrenaline, hyped up, just threw everything at them, and it caught them off guard. But also, you guys just mentioned earlier, well, you know what? OSU is a firmly established coaching staff. They have a lot of experience. They made the halftime adjustments, and we saw the inexperienced Notre Dame staff, and they did not make any second half adjustments to deal with OSU's adjustment, and they lost the game in the second half. They were completely outmatched strategically in the second half.
Yeah, you hit it right there on the head. You could tell who made adjustments in the second half and who didn't just by looking at the box score. 17 points third quarter to zip to Notre Dame. Well, Indy Fanatics, I really appreciate your contribution again to the Fighting Irish Faithful show. I really, thanks for joining in second time. Really, really great to talk to you again. Let's move to someone else, someone who we haven't heard from before, Angry Brian Kelly. We'll get back to you. Maybe we'll give Angry Brian Kelly the final word here. I don't know. But right now, someone I haven't talked to before, Rashad Bivens at B1Vens_era. Legit Twitter handle. You have been invited to speak, sir. B1Vens_era. Welcome to the Fighting Irish. Oh, call dropped. He dropped. Oh, he got scared. Kind of like Cone in the Pocket. Just kind of crapped himself there. I don't know. All right. Angry Brian Kelly. Angry_BK. Welcome to the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Coach, Happy New Year. You got a bowl game coming up on the 4th. Angry Brian Kelly. Mueller. Well, as we wait for Angry Brian Kelly to speak, Red Snapper 1998. I mean, we've kind of talked about the offense. We've talked about the defense here, but maybe Brian Kelly has something to say.
Good evening, boys. Good evening.
Hello, Coach. Welcome back.
First off, Gruck's Tigers, of course.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
my family.
I do have the ability to block you, so tread lightly.
About that. Me and my family, we give our condolences to my favorite protege, Tommy Reese. I think he did a hell of a job, honestly. As I said in my Twitter account earlier, I think Jack Cohn is one of the best quarterbacks we've ever had here, next to Tommy Reese, of course. A couple things I got to say. Does anyone believe me yet that 3 quarterbacks are better than 1? Has anyone come around to that yet?
A 3 quarterback system?
Today. 3 quarterback system. Well, guess what's better than 1 quarterback?
Elaborate.
2. What's better than 2 quarterbacks?
Continue.
What's better than 2 quarterbacks? 3.
Okay.
I was running 3 quarterbacks when I was the head coach this ball game, and I think it worked out pretty well. Probably could have used it today. And lastly, on this side of things, from my observations, my family and I's observations, sorry, me and my family, it looks like we got Brian Van Gorder Jr. on our hands. I mean, that defense had a lot of holes in it.
There's a lot of holes. I mean,
and he don't have nobody to blame but himself, so you can't fire him to get off the hook, like I did. So that's tough. He's gonna have some fighting to do this off season.
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about with another caller where contributor. I'm talking like it's like a call-in show, like a radio show. But no, I think you're onto a point, Coach, where we're talking about the holes in the defense, and this is something that's so, you go back to 2015 or 2016, however you want to look at it, the Fiesta Bowl. Then you look at against Clemson, Alabama, the last other 2 BCS New Year's 6 bowls we played, playoff games. The defense always seems to be one step behind, and that is notorious for a Notre Dame loss in one of these big games, prime time, and that, if anyone has listened to this show at great length, the Fighting Irish Faithful podcast, there are 2 things we talk about. One is running the football, okay, and the importance that plays in establishing the identity of your football team. But it's not so much that just because I like doing it. No, it's because teams that are holding the big trophy at the end of the year are doing that. Now, I haven't analyzed Alabama in detail or Georgia because those teams will be playing. But I guarantee you they have a very balanced offense. Notre Dame tonight was not balanced. So if we are, do what the defense is giving you. But, we talk about imposing your will. We talk about doing things that are successful. Other teams that historically are successful are running the ball a ton of time. But, Coach, you were talking about three quarterbacks. Please elaborate.
They're just better. I mean, come on. I'm gonna pass this to my cousin. He's a Notre Dame fan. He's from the great state of Illinois. Here, hold on.
Cousin in Illinois?
Yeah. So, a couple things.
Whoa.
Estemi.
Introduce yourself.
Estemi.
Continue, sir.
Estemi.
Cousin of Brian Kelly.
This is Patrick. Fitzpatrick Kelly.
Are you on Twitter, sir?
No.
That's okay.
No, I don't think so. I just my cousin's got a great Twitter account. I keep track of that one.
You live vicariously through him. Continue.
I do. So Estemi had 1 carry, and it was outside the tackles.
Ugh.
What?
Stupid.
That's probably not a great game plan. When OSU, they obviously game planned to not give up any huge plays, which they still end up doing. So, they game planned to not give up the big passing plays, give them these short, the coverage was soft, and they were going to stop the run. And Tommy Reese should, obviously, they're playing to our weakness at that point, because with Kyron out, what are we going to do? And we're going to have Estemi run 1 play outside the tackle box. So,
are you saying that Notre Dame should have run the ball more?
I know you guys were saying it already, but, it's not even running the ball, I'm not even saying to, try to mash it down their throats, 30 carries, Wisconsin them to death. I don't think that was going to ever happen, but, at least put a wrinkle in there. And I think Buckner, honestly, my cousin jokes about it, but, Buckner brings a different element to it. obviously you're going to have to let him throw the ball, or else they can just, he's going to, like that. I can't remember what game it was where I was getting really pissed off at my cousin because he just kept, every time Buckner was in the ball, he knew he was going to run, and every time Cohen was in, he's going to throw. And it was just, you needed a wrinkle there, and I don't think Tommy adjusted at all. It was like, we're just going to dink and dunk, which it seemed to be working for a time, but like eventually that was going to get adjusted at halftime, and they did. So they played on him a little bit. I think the second half you could tell a little bit more man-on-man. They were playing up on the receivers, and it was just like, that was it. Once they did that, it was just like we couldn't do anything because we had nothing established on the ground at all, and we'd even try to like mix it up. So
the only time I will say when you're allowed to run the ball under 50% of the time for the season or even in a game is if you have a stellar quarterback on your team. If you are a Heisman Trophy winner or even in the conversation of Heisman Trophy of quarterback excellence, your team is now knighted and blessed with the ability to run the ball less than half the time. The only team in the last 10 years, ever since 2009 when I started keeping these stats, the only team that has ever won a title that has run the ball less than 50% of the time was LSFU with Joe Burrow. They ran the ball as a team 47% of the time. But they had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback.
Yep.
And we do not have that. So what under what grounds do we think we are going to be a successful team by not running the ball more, utilizing a big running back like Estime, using Tyree and his speed? I mean, he was more of a receiver than a running back today.
Yeah, and I thought him and the other freshmen, I thought they did a good job catching the ball. I mean, they seem to catch everything, which is a great thing to have. But like, if that's all they're doing, then there's no balance at all, obviously. And to me, like, I don't understand. Like, is Freeman like trying? Like, it almost seemed like Freeman and Reese were showing a little bit too much loyalty to Cone to like prove a point that like, hey, Brian Kelly's gone. Like, we're gonna like stay true to what we tell our guys, and like, like, doesn't it kind of seem like that to me? Like they're almost trying to set a message saying, "I'm sticking with Jack Cohen. He's the guy that got us here, or whatever." And we're sticking to our upperclassmen and the guys that chose us to come here. It almost seemed like they're kind of trying to send a message. I don't know any other reason why they wouldn't at least try Buckner in the second half at some point. And it wasn't like we were down 14 points for an entire quarter or anything like that. We needed Cone to be throwing the ball around like that. Like, so I don't know. There was a lot of question marks there. Obviously, like on the other end of it, Freeman, like it's his first game. Like he's going to learn so much from this. And Tommy Reese finally getting the shackles off, and maybe he learned something like, maybe I don't throw the ball 60 freaking times next time. Like maybe I balance it out. And like Kelly was probably, sorry, my cousin Brian. He kept the handcuffs on him a little bit, and it's like, all right, we took him off, and then Tommy's like, let me fly, and now he's gonna get a little bit grounded. But overall, it sucked. That was like, I have a migraine watching the game, honestly.
I'm sorry.
But like, it literally gave me a headache just watching. I was so
drink
upset.
some
But,
water,
like,
have some vitamin C.
well, no, it's beer. But yeah. I think it's gonna be good. People forget that we had two freshman tackles starting today. We had a freshman wide receiver, Styles, that looked like a legit.
Oh, he played
looks
out of his
legit.
fucking mind. Styles gets the game ball for Notre Dame. I mean, Grant, I don't know how valuable a game ball is in a loss, but if I was to give a game ball to someone on the offense, it would be Styles. He dominated. I mean, the only person who had a sack for us was Foskey, thank God. But
hope to God he comes back. I don't know if he's going to come back now. Like, he had a pretty solid start. That's going to be tough. But
yeah.
I think we Notre Dame has never been known for our cornerback play. Like, I still wake up in the middle of the night screaming Terrell Lambert. Like, I don't. It's never been great.
Who ironically
and
got the
it was
interception
tough.
against Michigan State back in 2006. But, you know, that's interesting. You know, you look, ESPN finally has the updated stats on the defense for Oklahoma State and Notre Dame in this game. The leading tackler for Notre Dame was Clarence Lewis, which is interesting because that clearly shows where Oklahoma State was attacking Notre Dame's defense was the weakness of the cornerback. Next was J.D. Bertrand, so take that cosmic debris and talking shit about J.D. Bertrand. I'm sorry. I think J.D. Bertrand has surprised this entire football program, this entire university with an Irish Nation on how, which is where he has come from out of nowhere with tackles. You know, he had 8 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss. You know, he did very well. Second leading tackler other than Lewis. And then Drew White, you know, your captain middle linebacker. You know, you expect him to be there in the top 3. Then Foskey, you know, and it goes down there from there. Well, you know, Brian Kelly and Brian Kelly's cousin,
Patrick Fitzpatrick Kelly.
Thank you. Whoa, that's so much Irish. I need more Jameson for that. But thank you so much for contributing. We'll see if we can get to Stadium Dude Chipster. Chipster, hang on if you want to join. Thank you. Angry Brian Kelly, you got a bowl game coming up, and I think Notre Dame is hoping you lose. This is the Fighting Irish Faithful show post-game. I think we have time for one more caller. We'll give it to @StadiumDude Chipster. @StadiumDude, can you join us and bring us home to South Bend? Boots on the ground. As we close this thing out in the sunset, I've got dinner to make and a couple more bowl games to watch today before going to Mass tomorrow. Chipster, Stadium Dude, I really want to talk to you, sir. You don't have to speak officially, but unofficially. Unmute your mic, hit the pink button. Floor is yours. Speak.
Hey, thanks for having the show tonight, man. Really appreciate you.
Hey, thank you for joining the Fighting Irish Faithful show. The show is yours now, sir. Continue. We've kind of hit everything: offense, defense, Marcus Freeman, Reese, lack of rushing offense. What do you want to speak about?
I'm gonna go right into recruiting. Definitely, we didn't get the win, guys. I mean, I know that stinks, but I'm gonna try to take some positive out of this to see us put over 500 yards of passing in the air, to have a freshman go over 100 yards receiving, to be our leading receiver. It's going to speak a lot for the future. So I think if you're one of these marquee skill position guys that we all know we want, I think their eyes just lit up. And I think that it's just going to be a huge draw for us moving forward about what our offense is going to be moving forward. So I'm trying to look at some positive parts. Just what happened in the game. I mean, I think offensively, we threw the ball around all over the place. Had a couple key drops, I think, in just some marquee spots. And there was one, like, right over the top of the red zone. I just keep looking back. If he catches that in stride, that could have been just huge. But just got to give your hats off, really, to Oklahoma State, really. They just kept shooting us back and forth. We just couldn't stop them. But like I was going to earlier, not to keep rambling, but I'm just going to try to take a positive part of this from recruiting standpoint, really. The 500 yards of passing and just our freshman receiver just exploding.
Well, I like your approach of kind of bringing us back around to the future, bringing us to, you know, the glass is not completely empty approach. I really appreciate that for the it is New Year's Day, everyone. You know, we're clearly not pleased with the result of this game, but it is the new year. We are in the new era, and we can give a little slack to this team. And yes, we're looking at through the goggles of Notre Dame excellence. The go back to 1994 is the last time, New Year's Day, when we won a bowl game that actually matters, right? So we are approaching this always with that approach on this show. However, we can take a dose of reality that Chipster here is giving us, where, look, the future is bright. When you have Lorenzo Styles, a freshman, coming in with his first touchdown ever in his career in a big bowl game, the leading receiver, that is a positive. And I really appreciate Stadium Dude here for bringing us back around to some of the positives. Look, this team is on the up and up, even more than where we are. Our recruiting is better. Are we happy with the result today? Of course we're not. And will we ever be? No, we won't. But we do have the ability to, ground ourselves in some reality here and say, look, this isn't the playoffs that we lost. No, we were left out of the playoffs. Okay. But we are playing for a big bowl. We lost. All right. But does it really mean anything? To me personally, it does, just because of, the New Year's Six and that sort of thing. But Red Snapper, what's your thought on this?
I think it's a good learning experience, and I think understanding what happened, maybe that off-season haunting of, is going to motivate, Marcus Freeman as a head coach. Maybe this is, kind of what solidifies his point of view and his role, as the head coach, to really lead his team, because now he knows what he wants. I think it's going to be conducive to a good working relationship with Tommy Rees and Marcus Freeman moving forward. I see nothing but positives. I see, understanding the recruiting classes that are coming. There's a lot that's good to look forward to. Do we want this win? Yes. Do we want to check that box? Absolutely. But if this motivates us to win a championship in the next 4 years, great. If this, continues to bring in those recruiting classes and people keep coming to Notre Dame, then all of it's positive. You got to take it for what it is. And sometimes you got to lose a little bit to appreciate the win. Starting off as a head coach, first loss, this will sit wrong with him, and that will motivate him. So I see that as a positive.
It would be one thing, not to have an either or situation. That's not what I want to talk about here. But there's 4 scenarios, right? Number 1 is you lose this game, but you win the next game at Ohio State. Versus win this game and lose at Ohio State. Ideally, everyone wants the win-win, but no one wants the lose-lose.
Correct.
And I think the second best option, other than the win-win, is the lose-win scenario of everyone, I don't care who you are, would rather lose this game and win the next one at Ohio State. Marcus Freeman now has a 0% win percentage going into the Horseshoe, a stadium he knows extremely well, a stadium he used to play in, a stadium that he was on the other sideline, and he knows all the history, all the legacy of Ohio State, all the Buckeye Nation. He knows all that. He has to face that. And now he has to use this experience as a learning tool in his in his toolbox going forward. I really think that if we can put a positive spin on this, is it lights a fire under his belly, so to speak, on where we go from here. You learn so much from losing. You want to go back and watch film. You want to go back and say, hey, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? And then looking at who you have on your team, looking at, and just have that experience of being in the spotlight, being the head coach, that sort of thing. He will always remember his first game coaching as the head coach of Notre Dame, and it's going to be a loss. And I think that will be better for him in the future.
In the long run, absolutely.
And if I may, and not to make too many parallels here, but the first game that was coached by Lou Holtz was also a loss. It was a loss. It was a loss to Michigan at home. So I'm not saying that Marcus Freeman is Lou Holtz. That's not what I'm saying. But you learn so much by losing that you don't have the ability to learn, quote unquote, for the future by a win. And I would love a win. I want to win. I had so much excitement and so much joy in my heart, ready to just come out with a win today. That will have to wait for the future. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, this is where we are right now, and there's nothing more really that we can say about it. You know, we didn't win the game. Oklahoma State was the better team on the football field. They put more points on the scoreboard than we did, and it's really all it comes down to. Red Snapper 1998 and Chipster, if there's anything else you want to say, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Anyone else who's waiting, I'm sorry. We've been here almost an hour and 45. I think that's long enough for now. Anything else you want to say, Chipster or Red Snapper?
No, I'm good.
No, I'm good, man. Just God bless and go Irish, man.
All right.
Good
Yep. Go Irish. Thank you, Stadium Dude, for what you're doing. Sorry I left a box of popcorn up in section 117.
Awesome.
Red Snapper, you're good. Happy New Year, brother. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on the Fighting Irish Faithful podcast. Sorry we couldn't bring you a win today. We're a little down here, but look, the future is before us. We'll do at least one more show here, kind of season wrap up, I think, before the end of the season. We'll go dark then, because Lent's coming and winter's coming, right? And we'll talk about that more in the next show. But thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight live. Anyone from Coach Parsegian to ND Fanatics to Cosmic Debris to anyone else who's been with us, we greatly appreciate your contribution to the Fighting Irish Faithful show. Really, really enjoying the live format of this show, really interacting with more and more people. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Red Snapper, anything else you want to say?
Go Irish, beat Los Woes.
And I'll say go Irish, beat Buckeyes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll get this up on Spotify tonight for you tomorrow. For anyone who misses it in the live format, you will hear it in the podcast form tomorrow on January 2nd. But go to Mass first. All right, thanks, everyone. Go Irish, and have a good night. Happy New Year.